Razzle dazzle, it's your best buddies Basil and Guns. Your favorite podcasters are at it again. Well, at least until the bunnies break free. Support value for value and think outside the cage with Canary Cry News Talk.
Are you tired of advertisers trying to make you an offer you cannot refuse? Then support value for value with your best buddies, Basil and Guns, and Canary Cry News Talk.
Because it takes years of specialized training to watch adorable samurai babies. Join the CCNT Babysitter Club today and support value for value.
What's going on, everybody? How's it going? We're going to get the show started here in just a second. Don't worry, don't go anywhere. I'm hoping you can hear me. I think you can hear me. Chat, let me know if you can hear me. What's going on? Psalm 40 in the house. I had to start with some of those ads before the show here because I needed just a second to make sure that everything was working. And it looks, good news, like everything is working. What's up? We're going to get the show officially started here for the podcast in a moment. But here's the thing, folks. Oh, I said it again. Wow. I can't not say that. Huh. Well, here is the thing. I did not send out the email today. So if you're looking for the email, it's not going to be there. And we're going to find out just how many people rely on the email. There are so many things that we do over the years as vibrant, adaptive podcasters that we have made a part of our process over the years. And it's gotten a little heavy. This is kind of a lot of stuff to do beforehand, the email being one of them. Now I like the email. I think a lot of people like the email, but we're really having to we're going a little doge on this situation, pulling our own little Canary Cry doge. We've got to figure out what is it that we can cut, what is working, what's not working, what are things that we're just doing just because we've done them that way for so long. And today we are testing the email side of that equation. So the email will not be coming. However, the text message did go out, baby. So I'm assuming people tuning in now are on the text message alert system. If you are not on the text message alert system, you should get on it now. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. Very easy, just Canary, no punctuation, just Canary to 877-740-3226. You'll get a message straight to your phone when we go live. That's very fun. But of course, the fun part is you can text us back at that number. I read them. I love them. I'll read some right now to give a little shout out as we wait for people to appear in the show. Here we go. Listen for your area code. 817 says, yay for text alerts. Thank you very much. 817-330 says, email is nice, but mainly relying on text messages. Wow. You guys are on it. That is fast. That is instant feedback. We do not, it's not easy to do what we do and get instant feedback on what's going on. So thank you. Yes, we'll find out about the email. 614 says your AI overlords say proceed. Thank you very much, AI overlords. 507 says, hey, I messaged yesterday about my damehood. Not sure if you can still see my message. If not, I'll copy and paste it to an email. Great show, Canary Boys. At the dentist with my girlies. Oh, no. Dentist. I have a complicated relationship with the dentist. We all know this. I'm not exactly sure who this is, but if it is who I'm thinking it is, I think we got the message. Gons did update the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames page yesterday, so go check, see if you're there. If that's not who I'm talking to. I await your email. 509 says, hi, Basil. Hi, 509. 250 says, can't wait to hear it on the potty. Blessings, gentlemen. Thank you, Kat, for that. 214 says, alas, I will not be able to join. Love you still. Thank you very much, 214. And 856 says, here we go. Best show of the week. Godspeed. Thank you very much. All right, so there you go. Could be you. I'll read more text messages during the show. I do check it throughout the show, so if I ever seem a little distracted, that might be why. So go ahead right now, text the word Canary to 877-740-3226 and join in. Okay, we're going to go ahead. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put this on the screen. Then I'm going to play a little jingle, which will tell Gons that the show is starting on the podcast version, and then we'll start. It'll be a blast. Here we go.
Called it. We got a caller. We got a caller on the line here.
What's going on, Canary Cry Clubhouse? Welcome to the show where we take a break. We don't talk about tariffs, although I don't know. Oh, it's on a loop. I always forget to take that off a loop. I got to be able to find a way to make that setting not automatically go to a loop. But what are you going to do? That's the way the universe works. Loops and loops and loops. Okay, what was I talking about? I forget what I was talking about. I was talking about something, getting the show started. Not talking about tariffs. This is a call-in show, so we're just going to talk about whatever the call-in people want to talk about. We'll also be premiering Gonza's new Beyond the Verse on Whirlwind. Jesus is the portal. This is going to be a fun one. Love it. I look forward to it. This one's a little longer, so for technical reasons, I had to split it into two, but I will see how gracefully I can meld those two together live on the air. Here we go. What else? Yes. Oh, so I did not send out the email for this show, and I mentioned it to the pre-show people, but I'll mention it again here. We've been doing this for so long. We've built up so many processes and habits and things that we do, and we're going on a little bit of a Doge mission for the Canarium, trying to figure out what's actually working, what's not working, what's just taking our time, what's stressing us out, and what's not returning any value for our attention. We did learn pretty reliably that doing a social post for the start of each episode just does nothing, just does absolutely nothing. And it didn't take a whole lot of time, it took a tiny bit of time, but after stopping doing it, it feels good just to spiritually get that burden off the shoulders there. I recommend everybody. This is an opportunity for all of us to pull a little Doge in our lives. What are we doing without thinking? What are we doing just because we've always done it? And what are we doing that isn't returning any value to our lives? I think we get stuck. We get stuck in the bureaucracy. We get stuck in the habits. We get stuck in the patterns just because it's what we think we're supposed to do. I don't know. I'm not you. I don't live your life. But take a second and think about that. Now, one downside that is going into the equation for not sending out the email at the start of the show is that people will not get the call-in link early. That is sort of the main utility for people to get the newsletter for this show. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it into the chat right now. Here you go. There it is. Feel free to line up, get in the waiting room. We'll do some call-ins here in a little bit. This one's going to be a little loosey-goosey, folks. It's going to be a loosey-goosey one. So hang on tight. I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be fun. We're going to have fun. I do for sure. And I need all of you live people. I need you to help me. I need you to help me not go 3 hours. Okay? Stop me. If I'm going on a rant for too long, if something's happening and it's happening for too long, please say something in chat. I cannot go for 3 hours. I got 2 hours at the most, but I really need to get out of here in an hour and a half. And, the thing is, I just get rolling, I start having fun, and I forget, and I don't look at the time. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Dear viewer, you got to help me out. Okay? Don't make me pick somebody to be the official timekeeper. But there you go. That's where we're at. So you didn't get an email. I just put the call-in link into both the chats. Feel free to click on that. It's just a couple of clicks, and then you'll get put into the waiting room where you can sit, watch the show, listen to the show. You can even see a little bit of behind the scenes and chat privately with whoever else is in the waiting room. And then we'll take it from there, okay? So no holding back on the invite link. Am I trying to de-incentivize people from joining the newsletter? No, we are experimenting. It may very well be that we just add the newsletter back in. I don't know. We'll see. But take a second, everybody. Maybe this is what you want to call in about. Maybe you want help identifying what can be cut from your process in your life. Let's doge it up, folks. We're cutting the bureaucracy. We're streamlining. Because that'll make way. That'll make way for whatever else needs to go. Thank you, Night of the Hungry Panda. Says he started a 1 hour and 33-minute timer. Give Baz a buffer. That's true. I always do need a buffer. You know, it's kind of funny. It started as a goof, and it still is a goof. It started as a goof and maintains to be a goof. When I set timers, I have to set timers, whether it's, not for obvious things like cooking or whatever, but even working, cleaning the house. When there's a timer running, I get things done that I would just never get done before. It's just a good little tip there for anybody looking for ways to help yourself focus when you don't have outside accountability, or if you live out in the wilderness with nobody there to nag you or pester you about stuff. Set yourself a timer. And now it's been like maybe a year, maybe 2 years since I've ever set any timer that did not have an extra 33 seconds on the end. It's just fun. You got to make things fun. You got to make things fun however you can. Okay. I am not, to my knowledge, a Freemason, but it is just a fun thing to do. All right. So that kind of lays it out. That's what we're going to do. Big shout out to everybody who's on the text message alert system. Both the live viewers, yes, hello live viewers, but also the podcast people. This is fun for even the people who don't show up on the live. Maybe that's not their thing. I will say this, though, and I understand this, because there's been I can tell from the way that the list moves with people joining and leaving and joining and leaving, that sort of thing. This is actually a number. Maybe I might end up talking about this a little bit today, but it is true. The stats are in that AI has made owning a cell phone 10 times worse as far as automated calls, spam text messages. I'm getting calls and text messages 24/7, and it's all such obvious spam. It's crazy. AI has made that incredibly cheap and incredibly easy for those who want to do that. Watch out for scams, folks. Here's another little tip, because scams are on the rise. And not only just because it's not they're new, there's no new scams. It's all the same scams. It's just that people have set up AI to do it 100 times faster and cheaper than it used to be. Okay, you got your if anybody ever asks you for a gift card, to buy a gift card for them for any reason, that's a scam. I know it sounds silly, especially to the younger people listening. I'm telling you, it sounds silly. The gift card scam gets them every time, okay? No, it doesn't. I don't care what they're promising you. If anybody asks you to buy a gift card and send them the code, don't do it. And I get it. Young people are like, well, that's very silly. What a very silly thing Basil's talking about. Stop it. Okay, this is serious. Number 2, phishing scams. If you get a text from your bank, even if you get an email from your bank, even if you get a call from your bank, you cannot trust anybody reaching out to you for any reason. We're going back to paper mail, baby. So, all these paperless options, right? Get your paperless billing, get your paperless statements, get your paperless this, that. Save the earth, don't use paper. Here's the thing. Paper costs money. And you know who doesn't want to spend money? Scammers. No scammer is paying whatever, $100,000 to send out, whatever, 1 million spam letters or fake scam letters trying to get you to, whatever, trick you into something. They're not doing it. Only trust paper bills. Only trust paper notifications from your bank. Only trust. I'm telling you. Trust no one. Trust no email from any company, because they'll make it urgent too. They'll say, hey, this is a big deal. You got to respond now. Call this number. Send your this. Send your that. If you don't do it now, all your money's going to disappear. Hey, the Amazon one's the best. Like, oh, did you order a $10,000 computer on Amazon? Well, it's on the way. If you didn't do this, let us know. And you go, I did not do that. I don't want that to happen. Don't send me a $10,000 computer. You call the number, text back. They go, okay, we'll help you really fast. You got to give us your password, or give us your, it's very rarely like, give us your password. It's usually like, okay, we are sending, let's be honest. It's usually like, okay, we are sending you a code to your email. Please give us the code. And you're just like, okay, there's the code. He said there isn't code coming. There's the code. I'm going to give him the code. Don't give him the code. The lesson to all this: don't trust any text messages or emails that want anything from you at all, especially if they're from your bank, especially if they're from, anything like that. Anywhere you have money or anything, Amazon especially. Get back on paper billing. Get back on paper communications. Recommend it to everybody. There's a tip. I just saved somebody $10,000. I just saved somebody else $50,000 for listening to me. And trust me, especially boomers. Listen to me, boomers. You know I love you. I stand up for you all the time. We owe a lot to you guys. I get it. You don't get the respect you deserve a lot of times. But listen to me, boomers. You all think that you are unscammable. I'm here to tell you that is not true. I don't care how smart you are, how many degrees you have, how much school of hard knocks you've graduated from. It's just a different world. We're in a different world, and it is one that you are not native to, and that's okay. Trust no emails, texts, calls that are rushing you into some sort of emergency. That's one thing. I just have to trust the Lord that somebody needed to hear that, because I don't even remember why I'm saying this. Anyways, you can trust the Canary Cry text message alert system. We don't ask you for nothing. We just send you a text message when we get the show started. And the fun part is you can text us back whenever you want. I watch, I read the messages. It's all very fun. I'm going to read some now. Okay, so text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. Even if you're just a podcast listener, it's just very fun. Oh, that's what I was saying. Yeah, maybe you know, look, you're getting a bunch of robots texting you anyways. What's a couple more texts from your best buddy Basil? I promise you, I write them all myself. And I promise you, if you text back, it's me. And to prove it, I'll read some on the show. Like this one from 541, who says, value for value? But I thought everyone loved waffles. Oh, this person's being a little rascal. I don't know who this is. I don't have any names, by the way, when you text. I have no names attached to anything. I just have your area code here, 541. Somebody is making a comment about me advertising something, I think. You silly goose. Next up, 253 says it's wake up time, family. Oh, thank you, Xi. Xi Jinping is texting. 406 says, yay, I've been asking chat hot questions today. My goodness, it's trippy. Happy to be here. I've been asking chat hot questions today. Okay. I hope that is profitable for you and for the whole chat. 210 says, I nominate Jam as Knight. Sir Jam, Knight of the Lynx. Oh, yes, okay. Yes, we're still taking nominations for the Knight or Damehood. We're going to be figuring out a system, but you can nominate any producer you want. Text it to the number. 615 says, what tariffs? That's right. We're not talking about tariffs. Who even cares about tariffs? Tariffs mean nothing to me. Nothing. 470 says, looking for a great show. Thank you very much. That's it. 970 says, sawing through ceilings currently. Love Clubhouse days. Sawing through ceilings. I'm assuming some sort of construction worker or tradesman, and not some sort of like cat burglar who is sawing a hole in the ceiling of a museum to be lowered down to steal the jewels. Although we've got quite the range of listeners. Either is likely. One last one here. 708 says, 708 is Tomcat, is Farmer Tom. Anyone want to do recreational digging in Chicago's western suburbs? You might need a permit for some recreational digging in Chicago's western suburbs. That's very funny. 970 says ASL, that's American Sign Language. Everyone loves waffles. Oh, I see what's going on here. That's very fun. Okay. All right, we got to get the show started. Another 970 texted, says hilarious. We got a lot of 970s on the text message list. Okay, we're going to get the show started here. Here we go. We're going to do it. Okay, yes, I see. People are correcting their typos in their messages, but I'm just going to leave it because the typos are funny. We're leaving it. All right, so there you go. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. I hope everybody is staying sane out there. The level of PSYOP is so strong. I don't even know if PSYOP is the right word. It is social engineering. It is an emotional manipulation. It is powerful and coming from all sides too. So I'm not putting it on anybody except for the establishments who gain power by controlling your emotional state. This is our opportunity to try to disconnect from that a little bit during the week on this roller coaster. It's now been almost 2 weeks of mainstream news roller coaster. I mean, heck, even alternative news roller coaster. We are here to stabilize with a little bit of family time, stabilize with getting in on Gonza's research and development, his R&D on Beyond the Verse. We're talking about whirlwinds and portals and how Jesus is the portal. The true portal, or at least the most important portal. I don't know. We'll see. I have not watched it. Just programming note here. It is a little bit longer than usual. It's 10 minutes and 30 seconds, which is above the limit that I'm able to upload into this streaming software without paying money. And so I split it into 2 at about 5 minutes and 11 seconds. I will try to very gracefully, very professionally sync them up and play them one after the other without too much disturbance, but there's always a chance there'll be a little hiccup, and that will be my bad if that happens. And remember, after that, we're going to be taking call-ins. And don't worry. Folks, I also see this as an opportunity, okay? Oftentimes, I'll speak for all of us, oftentimes, even for myself, if it comes into calling into a show, having a conversation, anywhere where we're going to be perceived, it's very uncomfortable to be perceived. Many of us, maybe even most of us, would prefer to stay unperceived. Sometimes we forget that we are being perceived. We forget other people can see us and hear us. And when we notice, when we find ourselves in a situation where we are being perceived by other allegedly conscious beings, it can be a little shaky, can feel a little wonky, can feel a little high pressure. Trust me, right now, this whole show, you don't need a plan. You don't need a good question. You don't need a plan. It's just you and me, baby. We're just taking it easy. We're hanging out. Don't hold yourself to a standard because Lord knows I'm not going to hold you to one. Okay? It's just a good opportunity to get out there, have a conversation, and practice the traumatic event of being perceived on the internet and finding your voice. I've said it many times recently. Hearing your own voice recorded can be a very traumatic experience. Like, is that really my voice? I'm still like that. I've said it before, but not only the sort of timbre and pitch of my voice, but in my head right now, as I'm talking to you, I feel like I'm talking so fast, so fast. I almost want to slow down, but I got a lot to say. So I feel like I got a lot to say. I listen to myself back on things like this. I feel like I'm listening to the sloth from Ice Age. I feel like I'm talking to a sentient, extraterrestrial sloth being from Jupiter who's grown up on a planet that had 100 times more gravity than Earth, and then suddenly thinks, he's talking regular, but then, time dilation, science fiction. Now that I'm on Earth, I'm talking very, very slow. That might be what sloths are. Like, why are they so slow? Well, they might be from a planet or a realm or a dimension where gravity is like a bajillion times stronger, and so they just move slower. I don't know. I don't even know if any of that makes sense. The point is, no pressure. Don't not call because you don't think you have anything to say. In fact, what I hope, and what Gans and I have talked about, is that it's about time we start empowering other Canarians to doing more. Not just in the context of producing the show, although you should produce the show. That's very important. It'll go away if we don't do that. But it's 2025. We're preparing. We're building culture. This isn't just a show. This isn't just a community. It's not just a family fun time. But it's also, we hope, should be something like an opportunity for people to step into perhaps what God might be calling them to do. Maybe it's your own podcast. Maybe it's a YouTube show. Maybe it's a whatever. Maybe it's just talking to people in real life around you. I don't know your life. I don't know what you do. There's so many different ways that could happen. But I think if one were to take this very special opportunity, there's not a whole lot of opportunities to call into shows like this that have a loving, dedicated, loyal, and somewhat sizable group of people, very supportive and loving and truthful. Call in, get a little bit of experience. Expose yourself to the opportunity to be perceived. Because you got to break down that barrier. You got to work through it. If God is calling you to do things, make things, say things, be seen, this is an excellent, oh no, I just made a hand gesture that's certainly going to get clipped. Oh no. This is an excellent opportunity to do that, to practice. Just practice. Don't worry. All right. Enough encouragement. I'm not going to encourage anybody anymore. What am I doing? So, again, I'm going to pop the call-in link into the chat. You know what? I really should find a better way to do this. I guess in theory, I could put the call-in link into the text message when I send it out. I will say this. One thing that doesn't work with that is we actually have to register every link that we send out. This is allegedly their way to fight spam is we can't just put any willy-nilly link into the text message. We have to register it or else they won't let it go through. So, and every call-in link is new for every show. So to register a new link every show, it just seems a little heavy-handed, okay? We're trying to cut process, trying to tone it down, trying to make things easier, okay? So I don't know. I'll just keep putting the link in here throughout the show. We do have a fan favorite sitting here in the chat. He's at work. He's going to take a few minutes. So what we're going to do, without further ado, is get to what really people want around here, which is Beyond the Verse. A little bit of Gonzo Shimura, the director of the Age of Deceit films. This reminds me, there's a new documentary that is out/coming out simultaneously. It's called Age of Disclosure. This is, from what I've been told, the most comprehensive, high-level documentary about alien disclosure that's ever existed. It's talks to like a dozen high-level, currently employed government politicians and military people, as well as a bunch of retired people. Marco Rubio, the current Secretary of State, appears in this documentary, Age of Disclosure, talking about how we have aliens and we need to talk more about aliens and government needs to stop hiding aliens. Marco Rubio says this. And they called it Age of Disclosure, as if they couldn't any more blatantly try to steal, cloud, sabotage the search engine optimization for AOD, the real AOD, Age of Deceit. Funny enough, Age of Deceit is also about alien disclosure, but about the deception that alien disclosure proposes and how it can be used and manipulated by the government to bring about the atmosphere, the situation that is described in the book of Revelation. So it is not, I'm shocked but not surprised that they stole the acronym, almost stole the exact name, to try to distract people from finding Age of Deceit and learning the truth about the disclosure. And they did this with a documentary that is explicitly a government-sanctioned documentary about the disclosure. It's too much, folks. I'm telling you. The simulation is hooked up directly to this show. It's too much. It's too much to ponder. So what we're going to do is take a look, premiere here of Gonz's Beyond the Verse, new mini documentary. Let's see what the official title is. I want to get it right here. Whirlwinds. Whirlwinds. Why Jesus is the ultimate portal. Beyond the Verse, number 12. Are you ready, folks? Because here it comes. I'll see you on the other side.
Welcome to Beyond the Verse, where we dig deeper into Scripture. There are many stories in the Bible that describe a gateway between the seen and unseen realms. These accounts give us a glimpse into the mechanics of creation and the interlacing of the spiritual and physical world. They often involve descriptions and manifestations familiar to our physical world, like whirlwinds and fire, but can be summarized as gateways or, in more modern vernacular, portals. Academically, these accounts can be labeled as theophanies, which is when God appears in visible or tangible form, or apocalyptic visions, where the heavens open up to reveal the spiritual realm. But in our modern culture, where science and technology are beginning to reveal what they believe are the mechanics of the universe, we can perhaps look over these examples from the Bible where portals, gateways, or openings to the spiritual realm are referenced, and understand that not only are they supernatural, but that it validates the existence of God and the truthfulness of the Word of God, even within the confines of modern science, quantum mechanics, electromagnetism, or even ether physics, which is gaining traction in the ivory towers of academia. In Genesis 5:24, it says, "Enoch walked with God, and then he was no more, because God had taken him away." While many believers may skip over or ignore the implications of this one verse, the historical understanding of why God took Enoch is well documented. For example, in Second Temple text like the Book of Jubilees, it says that Enoch was taken because of his righteousness and is even described as the first man to learn writing, knowledge, and heavenly wisdom. Philo of Alexandria, a first-century philosopher, stated that Enoch was someone who transcended the material world through the pursuit of divine wisdom and virtue. In the Sirach, which is the wisdom book from the Apocrypha, in chapter 44, verse 16, it says, Enoch pleased the Lord and was taken up. He was an example of repentance to all generations. In the first book of Enoch, which is a Second Temple text, it describes how God took Enoch to be a mediator between the fallen angels, or the Watchers, and God. He became a scribe of judgment, writing down the deeds of the wicked and pronouncing God's judgment on the fallen Watchers. Enoch is even shown heavenly secrets, including the workings of creation, astronomy, time, judgment, and the fate of souls. And eventually he's even exalted among the angels and becomes almost angelic himself. So what were the inner workings of creation that he was shown? Or perhaps what can be described as the mechanics of creation, which clearly transitioned him from the material world into the spiritual unseen realm. We can look to 1 Enoch 39, verses 3 through 4, where it says, In those days a whirlwind carried me off from the earth and set me down at the end of the heavens. Here, Enoch is clearly transitioned from this material world into the heavenly realms in a whirlwind. While there are even more extra-biblical texts that describe even more mechanics of creation, like in 2nd Enoch, where it describes Enoch passing through 10 heavens, with each level having different inhabitants such as angels, stars, fire, and rivers of light, it's important to stick to what is actually in the Word of God, not just these extra-biblical texts, which is why I want to focus on the whirlwind as some kind of gateway or portal, since it wasn't just Enoch who was taken in this whirlwind. In 2 Kings 2, verse 11, it says, As they were walking along and talking together, suddenly a chariot of fire with horses of fire appeared and separated the two men, and Elijah went up into heaven in a whirlwind. Here is another example of a prophet, Elijah, being taken to heaven in a whirlwind. What's interesting is the additional description of the chariots of fire and horses of fire. Because according to rabbinic and mystical Jewish traditions, Enoch rode on something called a Merkabah, a mystical chariot often associated with Ezekiel's wheel and thrones. Thus, it is likely not a coincidence that the whirlwind is mentioned next to the chariots and horses of fire in 2 Kings 2, verse 11. The more important point is that there is some kind of mechanics that truly exists, which appears like a whirlwind between this world and the heavens, much like what modern quantum theory suggests are traversable wormholes. In Job 38:1 and Job 40 verse 6, it says, Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. In Isaiah 66 verse 15, it says, For behold, the Lord will come with fire, his chariots are like a whirlwind, to execute his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. Jeremiah 23:19, it says, Behold, the storm of the Lord has gone out in fury, a whirlwind swirling down upon the heads of the wicked. In Nahum 1 verse 3, The Lord is slow to anger and great in power. The Lord will by no means leave the guilty unpunished. His path is in the whirlwind and storm, and clouds are the dust beneath his feet. In Zechariah 9, verse 14, it says, Then the Lord will appear over them, and his arrow will flash like lightning, the Lord God will sound the trumpet and advance in the whirlwinds of the south. In Scripture, whirlwinds consistently function as divine gateways or openings. They mark moments when the veil between heaven and earth is pierced, allowing for supernatural transport, revelation, or judgment. They symbolize direct access to the unseen realm, acting as portals through which God moves, speaks, or carries individuals across dimensions. The specific word whirlwind does not appear in the New Testament, but it might be because the New Testament is actually about the ultimate whirlwind, the only gateway that we should be walking through. In John 1, verse 51, it says, "Truly, truly, I tell you, you will all see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." Here, Jesus is referencing himself as the motif of Jacob's ladder. Jesus says in John 10, verse 9, "I am the gate. If anyone enters through me, he will be saved. He will come in and go out and find pasture." Here, Jesus clearly states that he is the gate, the portal to eternal life. And as such, all of his supernatural moments are accompanied by whirlwind-like behavior. In Matthew 17, Jesus is transfigured on Mount Hermon. Verse 2, "His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light." And in verse 5, "A bright cloud enveloped them, and a voice from the cloud said, 'This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him.'" And of course, in Matthew 24, verse 30, it says, "Then will appear in heaven the sign of the Son of Man, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." Again in Revelation 1:7, "Behold, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him," referencing Daniel 7:13, where it says one like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven. Even at Pentecost, in Acts chapter 2, verse 2, it says, "Suddenly a sound like a mighty rushing wind came from heaven and filled the whole house." So even in the presence of the Holy Spirit, the descent was like a whirlwind, sudden, loud, and powerful. And later, when Jesus first appears to Paul in Acts 9, it says in verse 3 and 4, "Suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice." So while the New Testament never calls Jesus' appearance as a whirlwind, it's clear that Jesus himself, calling himself the gateway, embodies the power of God, like the whirlwind in the Old Testament, where Transfiguration, Pentecost, Damascus Road, and the Second Coming all carrying whirlwind-like intensity surrounding each event. So in conclusion, while there are supernatural descriptions of portals or gateways between this realm and the next, it is clear that Jesus is the only true portal between heaven and earth, the living gateway to God's presence, power, and eternal life.
Oh, yeah. While I was watching and listening to that, I was interested because, as we know, all these original languages, there's lots of complexity in the words. The words not only have sort of numerical value, but the words often have multiple different meanings or versions, because this is especially in the Bible when so many, as part of a responsible reading of the Bible, just understanding the different languages being used, the different contexts of the stories, both literal, poetic, things like this, depending where you are. It's just interesting to go back and look for those sort of things. I was trying to find maybe what the exact word was. I couldn't catch if Gons had the precise word that was used for whirlwind in those particular scriptures, but I did find a few of them, a few different ones. I am told by ChatGPT that Sufa is the word that is associated with Enoch. But there's also, what is this word here? Galgal. 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 Let me see if I can share this so you can take a look at this together. Boop. There we go. Galgal. Thank you, Bible Hub, for not crashing my computer. It says Galgal, wheel, whirlwind, rolling thing. Word origin from the root galal, meaning to roll or roll away, corresponding Greek and Hebrew entries. While there's no direct Greek equivalent, well, we don't care about the Greek, but okay, Greek equivalent for galgal, the concept of wheels and circular motion can be related to Greek words like trochos, meaning wheel or circuit usage. The Hebrew word galgal primarily refers to a wheel or rolling object. It is used metaphorically to describe the motion and force of a whirlwind or chariot wheel. The term conveys a sense of movement, circularity, and sometimes chaos or divine intervention. Yeah, well, a lot of that certainly applies to Jesus. If we're talking about divine intervention. Cultural and historical background: in ancient Near Eastern cultures, wheels were a significant technological advancement. Essential for transportation and warfare, chariots, often equipped with wheels, were symbols of power and speed. The imagery of a whirlwind or wheel in biblical texts often signifies God's dynamic presence and action, reflecting his sovereignty and unstoppable nature of his will. That's very interesting. I can see, of course, in the context, as long as we're mentioning age of deceit and age of disclosure, of course, we know one, at least theoretical, risk we see in the potential disclosure of ETs is the deception that, well, see, in the Bible it said whirlwind, but really you look into the words and it means wheel, like wheel within wheel, or ball, or spinning motion. You could see an attempt to find some sort of ET type of explanation that, he wasn't taken away in a whirlwind. Really, it was a UFO. Ooh. But let's see here. At least ChatGPT is saying the Hebrew word for whirlwind used in the context of Enoch, particularly as found in texts like First Enoch and related apocalyptic literature, is commonly Sufah, S-U-F-A-H, pronunciation Sufah, meaning whirlwind, storm, tempest. Root, Suf, meaning to come to an end or to cease, tying it metaphorically to destruction or divine judgment. In biblical and apocalyptic texts, I don't know if I would call Enoch apocalyptic. I mean, it is the Apocrypha, but I don't think those are the same. Anyway, Sufa often carry a symbolic meaning, not just a literal storm, but a manifestation of divine power, judgment, or presence. For example, in 2 Kings 2:11, Elijah is taken up to heaven in a Sufa, a whirlwind, which is similar to how Enoch is taken or transported in various apocalyptic visions. This thematic link is strong across texts dealing with divine encounter or supernatural ascent. Let me know if you want, then it's asking if I want more. Oh, I think that'll do it. Thank you very much, robot. I don't trust you, but whatever. Yeah, this idea of portals is so interesting in our time because of technology. You just say portal, of course, immediately we're thinking about wormholes and stargates and things like this. And you have this sort of technological vision. CERN, being a portal to the abyss or whatever. But again, in the context of technology, essentially, go back to the Tower of Babel, technology essentially being man's attempt to gain power, to be like gods, which is a gift that we've been given, the ability to manipulate and harness the mechanics of physical reality to accomplish our will to a greater degree, an easier degree, a more efficient degree. I mean, that is a gift that God has given us. It's a result of us being made in the image of him, not just in our physical image, but in our sort of identity, our personality, and our what's the word? Potential, right? This is part of the gift of being human versus some other animal. There's no other animal that has such incredible blessings to even comprehend using tools, manipulating the world around us to suit our will, which is also connected to witchcraft, which is the enforcing of our will through various means onto the world around us in such a way that at least could be characterized by the attempt to subvert the will of God, or at least rebel against it. So you have whirlwinds, technology, witchcraft, all sort of tied together in this very interesting and relevant knot with one another. And so we think whirlwind, we think we think portal, we think technology, we think man overcoming his limitations by his own power, and this very sort of tempting, ages long, humanity long, eons long temptation to gain access to the things of God by our own power. And as it always does, technology being used as a counterfeit of the mechanics that God has already created, that he has already laid out. He already works in whirlwinds. This is our reality. He works in portals and whirlwinds and, Jacob's ladder and these sorts of things. And as his creation, his favored creation, we've been given the gift, and perhaps our motivations get a little bit ahead of us to try to recreate those things for ourselves. That's how you get CERN, and that's how you get universe engulfing black holes opening up in Switzerland, or whatever. Not to put too fine a point on it. But Jesus being this ultimate, reliable, final portal, final whirlwind between this physical realm in which we are given a short time and the eternal realm. We already have access. The access is ours. And depending what Christian tradition you are in, that's something that maybe can be accessed now, or maybe it's something that we have to wait for the end of our physical life on earth to experience. But either way, it's very reliable. And I don't think it's a surprise also that, especially Whirlwind, talking both about Enoch and, Elijah being caught up in whirlwinds, are both targets for the sort of ancient alien theory, for the theory that, it wasn't really a whirlwind, it was a wheel. It was wheels within wheels. It was a UFO that took Enoch up to the other realms. It was a UFO that took Elijah. So we find ourselves in a very, very interesting but a very classic, age-old conundrum, where our human urge to counterfeit and create and take charge and wield both the physical and spiritual mechanics for our own apotheosis comes up against, maybe it creates friction, maybe it doesn't, but comes up against the promises of God sending his son as the final portal, the portal through which we can gain all access to eternity and the secrets of the universe and the deeper hidden parts of reality. And so, I don't know if ironic is the right word. It's either ironic or not, that for the most part, you're going to have science, and in the case of disclosure, the government, coming out, putting out a narrative about whirlwinds, about other dimensions, about biblical stories that do not point towards Christ as the ultimate gift in so many ways, but one of them being the portal to eternity. But instead, a retelling of those biblical narratives that can suit this final deception. The age of deceit, or the age of disclosure. And this, of course, is reference to what we read about in the book of Revelation. A sort of one world religion, a new religion, endorsed, created, and perhaps even enforced by the merchants of the earth, the merchants teaming up with the kings of the earth to create a situation where the old ways, the old religion, the old beliefs, perhaps, about creation, about our current standing, about heaven, about the supernatural realm, about man's place in the universe, is subverted and twisted to tell a story about extraterrestrials throughout history, throughout biblical history, providing the portal for mere humans to sort of ascend into some other realm. Tale as old as time. So interesting to see how clearly laid out all of this has been. This used to be crazy nonsense, even within the Christian community. Even at church, you can talk about these things because it is too wild. Now we see it unfolding right in front of our eyes. What a very interesting time we live in. Thank you, Sir Darren out of the Hungry Panda, giving me the 45-minute mark. God bless you. So I think that means time to take some callers, see what they think about all this. First caller on the list, we have the one, the only Psalm 40, called in right away, been sitting very patiently. Sent a message that says, "This is great. The thoughts I had go perfectly with this gal. Okay. Amen. Let's bring the one, the only, Mr. Psalm 40, onto the stage. Say what's up. How's it going, Psalm 40? You are on the air.
Hey, Basil, can you hear me?
I can hear you great, buddy. What's going on?
All right. I'm waiting in line. I'm at the pharmacy, so.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. All right. I didn't get to actually see the word when you had it on screen, but was it gal or was it Gil? Gilgal.
Gal. Galgal.
Okay. The reason I asked is because I'm sure you've heard Gilgal Rephaim. I'm sure you've heard of that, right?
Gilgal it's ringing a bell, but you might need to give it
it's
to
a
those
it's
who
a big talking point for Derek Gilbert. He usually brings it up a lot. It's supposedly like this snake mound that was found near Herman, and there's also like a circular rock formation
Mm-hmm.
and that is supposedly called Gilgal Rephaim, the wheel of the Rephaim. But
Right.
the difference between the G word that you brought up and the other one, I can't even remember it. But the two different whirlwind words that you were able to find, I
Right.
think the difference between them is like kind of like what you were saying, that one is like a physical mechanic and another is a spiritual mechanic, because they are both describing the same thing. And if you look at the context of when they're used, it seems like the uh, the wheel, like the Galgal uh, wheel or whirlwind, is usually like in reference to like God or Christ physically being involved in it. Even though I guess God is he's the one opening the holes, but
Yeah.
it seems more like gospel oriented, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm looking here. Yes, Gilgal does ring a book now. This is in the book of Joshua, is the place where the Israelites camped after crossing the Jordan River. Um, yeah, I didn't get a long opportunity to dive deep into which word is being used in which case and sort of confirm it. I did just get straight from ChatGPT was the one who gave me that word Sufa, which
Sufa.
is yeah, which is a little bit more directed. It looks like to whirlwind, storm, or tempest. It
I was
also
able to look it up.
were
That's
you?
usually one of the first things I do. Like if I read a weird passage that I don't get, one of the first things I do is go to like, the lexicon at the
Yeah,
interlinear and find out what these words actually mean. And Sufa, yeah, in Second Kings 1, where Ezekiel is taken, he's taken by a Sufa, which is a storm. And I'm thinking the reason that the writer is using that word is because, you know, you have the lights and sounds like we do at Pentecost going on at the same time. It could easily look like that, you know, a circular hole opening in reality, a portal opening, but
right.
on top of it, we have a thunderstorm going off, what appears or sounds like a thunderstorm. So that's what I meant. Like, I think that depending on the writer's inspiration or their point of view, they may choose to write it as a storm or as a portal. They were taken by a portal or they were taken by a storm. When actually they're the same thing.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm pulling up a little bit more on that Sufa, and boy, oh boy, it shows up kind of all over the place. It's showing up in Job 38:1. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. So God is showing up in this whirlwind thing a lot. Isaiah 66:15. For behold, the Lord will come in fire, and his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger with fury. That's Sufa as well. Proverbs 10:25. When the whirlwind passes, the wicked is no more, but the righteous is an everlasting foundation. Nahum 1:3, the Lord has his way in the whirlwind and in the storm. 2 Kings 2:1, that's when Elijah went up by a whirlwind. Yeah, it's very interesting, especially because the root of the word is suf, which means to come to an end or to cease or to perish. But sufa, it's not a brick wall. Like there is something on the other side of the whirlwind. It's always the voice of God coming through the whirlwind, or someone, being uh, taken and transported to another place on the other side with the whirlwind. Um, and so what comes to my or what keeps coming to my mind is like Marvel. Doctor Strange has his little
Yeah.
portal power that he does, and it's this sort of whirlwind of spikes and sparks and
And he does
fire.
spiral. He spirals his hand, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting, man.
If you think about like quantum science or like the mainstream science idea of it, like if you really were to look a hole in space, you would be ceasing that space that we're just possessing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the same with black holes too, which are sort of traditionally shown or talked about in sort of this whirlwind way, where even light itself is caught up in this unstoppable orbit until it's compressed down into basically the end of all matter, like the gravity being so powerful that it's just whatever's in there is trapped and compressed until its very end, sort of the ultimate definition or version of an ending that could exist. And then, of course, the theory being that there could be something on the other side of that, but who knows? I mean, it's got this very much like Jesus himself. It has this what's the word? This sort of unexpected, uh, unexpected not ending, because that's kind of the opposite of what I'm saying. There's, with a black hole, the unexpected thing is that there is something on the other side of it, or the whirlwind, something so terrible that the root word is death or ceasing or coming to an end. But the much like Jesus, who to the physical, to the material or the secular eye, dies, came to an end. However, there is something on the other side of that end. It sort of breaks our conception of even the idea of ending or ceasing, and Jesus being sort of a physical manifestation of that. That changes everything. I mean, it's so backwards. Ooh, I hear a phone ringing. Is that you, or is
Sorry
that
about
someone
that.
at the?
Yeah, that's the pharmacy.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting, man. Um,
um, I did have one more point about all right, the rolled up. Hold up, I'm trying to multitask. The rolled up portion. You're saying one of the definitions of gal gal is to roll away or something like that.
yeah, to roll like a wheel.
Okay, so Chuck Missler. I've been going through the Bible. I started in Genesis in January of 24, and I've made it to Isaiah. I'm about halfway through Isaiah right now.
Hmm.
And Chuck Missler has a series, and I've been watching that. And we got into, I think it was a whirlwind. I think there was a mention of some kind of a whirlwind in there. And so he talks a lot about like he gets into the quantum stuff. He tries to be real secular, I guess, like where he tries to connect the science to the Bible. But so he claims that modern quantum science claims that there are 10 dimensions
Hmm.
and we can only experience four of them. And the reason for that is because the other six are curled up to like a quantum level. They're curled.
Mm.
And so when we, hear the apocalypse, or like, when we hear about the heavens rolling up like a scroll,
Right.
he claims that it is our current dimensions either curling up into nothing or the other dimensions uncurling and becoming exposed.
Right. Yeah.
But there's still
Unraveling.
there's still that connection of a spiral here, which again was another thought that I had. That like the occultists love their spirals, and
Hmm.
obviously the Rephaim love their Gilgal. So there's some dots to connect here for sure.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's so funny because it's like just the more, as long as your mind can keep working and your lips can keep moving, like everything is connected in that way, and everything leads to just the next, and I mean this in an astonishing way. The next sort of obvious topic is all rolled up, like you say, into the next one. And I mean, I think there's something there, not to get too caught up in our own sort of train of thought there. But of course, all these things have relation to one another. Like, of course they do. That's they have to. They would have to. There's nothing sort of isolated. And much like a whirlwind, much like a gal, like a rolling thing, one rolls into the next very easily.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like a child in the kitchen watching my mother cook or something, and then she goes away, and I see these pots and pans and spatulas, and I'm like, these things are somehow connected. I don't know what they do, but I know they do something together.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yet you may have just put into words like a new feeling that doesn't have a word for it, you know? It's like when you learn these Japanese words for very complex emotions that English just doesn't have a word for. Someday the Lord will give us some revelation on that missing word, or perhaps it exists in one of the original languages.
Yeah. I know you're trying to keep a time limit here, and we have at least one other caller. So unless you have something you want to dig out of me, I think we could move on.
Okay, I think we're good. Thank you so much, buddy, for helping me stay on schedule.
Yes, sir. Have a good one. God bless.
God bless, buddy. Take it easy. Okay, there we go. See, this is how it works around here. This is great. Great to hear from you, Psalm 40. Let's see. We do have another person in the waiting room. Let's see. I haven't seen them say anything in the chat. Oh, yes, I have. Okay, they're here. Well, let's do that. I'm not sure. I will have to be reminded if I have talked to this individual before. Thank you, Sir Darren Knight of the Hunger Panda, keeping time for us. 33 minutes left. Perfect timing to bring on Seraphim here. Let's go. Seraphim, you are on the air. How's it going?
Well, howdy. Doing well.
Howdy, howdy doody. Thanks for calling in.
Awesome. Well, this is a first time calling in. I am part of the Texas Canary fam.
Woo,
So I've been to a couple meetups, but first time on a call-in show.
beautiful.
Yeah. But a quick note on the whirlwind thing.
Hmm.
Being a Texan, I am an avid storm experiencer and storm enjoyer. So
Fun.
big time weather nerd. And the more I kind of like sat and pondered with why I love storms so much, I realized I just really feel the power of God in the storms, like the lightning, the boom, the shake, the excitement and fear of like tornado. Is it coming my way? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But that whole Nahum verse that was in Gonz's video, that definitely describes my feeling towards storms, and just like, you're kind of at a loss to control it. You're just at the mercy of God and whom God decides to bring judgment to.
Absolutely. I have never experienced a tornado specifically in person, but from what I can tell, and the more that I think about it, I mean, that is just I can't think of any other natural phenomenon necessarily that is so acutely beyond comprehension. Like beyond any ability to do anything. Like, I don't know, with the ocean, you can try your best to stay afloat, or with, I don't know, volcano, just like, I don't know, try not to get hit by lava or something. But there's just no stopping a serious tornado. I'm not going to lie. When I was younger and the first Twister came out, I thought, that looks like fun. I could be a storm chaser or something. And then of course the next one came out and I thought I might be a little bit old to get into that business. But yeah, the absolute power and awe-inspiring, I mean, chaos. I just mean chaos in that it's like out of any human control whatsoever. Is really, it's hard to find a better sort of natural metaphor for the true sovereign uncontrollability of God. And I think it's no surprise talking about my, connections between technology and the counterfeit, or the trying to harness, um, creation in a way that sort of reflects our motivation to be like gods. You know, Twister and Twisters are both about groups of scientists trying to figure out how to control the storm, how to control the whirlwind. And, you know, inevitably they learn that that's quite the task they're taking on. So I am unable to detach this like biblical awe, just pure awe and incomprehension of the power that of sort of divine sovereignty that whirlwinds, I guess, represent, or maybe are literally. I have no idea. Have you ever been like in or near a tornado?
Not in, by God's grace.
Yeah, well, thank
And I
God.
keep it that way.
Yeah.
But I definitely track them whenever we get sirens or a warning. I'm all over that. But once on the way back from Austin, I was driving and saw there was a couple storm cells crossing the major highway, the only way back home. And I'm like, okay, given the direction and my direction, we're going to intercept these suckers. So I'm like,
Ooh.
okay, no, I'm going to exit here, backtrack a little bit, take some side roads and skirt the supercells. And I popped out back on the highway a little too close for comfort. I didn't intend to cut it that close. And I thought I saw like what used to be the remnants of a tornado. They call it, in the storm chaser world, they call it roping out. It basically
Ooh.
looks like, you know, a piece of rope kind of chopped up in pieces.
Oh,
And
crazy.
the winds were racing and I'm like, okay, fear of God all over me right now. This is a little scary. So accidentally storm chased once.
That is so cool. You are so cool. Oh my gosh.
I embrace it. I embrace it. I love it.
I love Texas and I love our Texas Canarians. You guys are great.
Well, if you ever want to come visit, we'll show you some Southern hospitality.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically required. I mean, there's been times where we have sort of daydreamed about, I don't know, doing some sort of meetup tour or something like that. And yes, I mean, the Texas is so chock-a-block full of Canarians that if we didn't at least make a couple stops there, we would be missing out on, I think, some of the best that the Canarium has to offer. So good job, guys.
All right. Well, God bless Texas and God bless the Canarium around the world. It's a really great community. But I did have one other note on the spiral element.
Okay.
Back in 2018, I visited Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, and there's a bunch of spiral petroglyphs on these old native, I guess, ruins. They
Ooh.
have little structures. You can see where the structures used to be for their houses and their temples. Basically, just like a plot of a layout of, you know, a trace of ground, nothing really standing. But on the caves, on the walls that jutted up to the sides, there's a bunch of caves. And they're only really accessible through ladders, which, you know, they let the tourists kind of climb in and explore a couple. But I'm like, this is a really interesting people. And they said they had no natural enemies. Like there were no warring tribes that they needed
Ah.
to run and hide from.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if you or anyone that's currently listening has seen End Times Productions covered it. It was an interview with Tom Horn discussing Chaco Canyon. And they talked about the Anasazi tribe and how they were involved in a lot of witchcraft, mysticism, and spiritual beliefs like that. And they even encountered some petroglyphs in that area of six-fingered and six-toed, you know, little stick figure drawings on the
Ooh.
walls, weird things coming out of the spirals, weird, you know, kind of dog, alien-looking type beast creatures. And then the
Interesting.
tribe, yeah, very interesting. And then the tribe mysteriously disappeared almost without a trace. Like they didn't merge into the Apaches or any other tribe, and they didn't have any known enemies. And so it's like, what were these people so afraid of, and why were they trying so desperately to hide?
Yeah.
So that video came out in 2021. So I did not have this information while I was walking around in person, but it was a very eerie air walking around and seeing these things. I'm like, oh, cool, spiral. They must like this shape. But it's like,
Right.
okay, no,
Right.
there is
Right.
there is a lot more. So yeah, if anyone is interested in that whole backstory, they did with End to End Times Productions. I think it's called Chaco Canyon, but
Okay. Yeah,
very
it's starting to ring some bells. I don't know who. Maybe we talked about it with Tom Horn. I'm not sure. But yeah, especially in the New Mexico area, I mean, that's where all the hippies go for the vortexes. This milieu, this theme of spirals or whirlwinds or portals is very strong down in that area. What is it? Is it Sedona? Sedona, where all the hippies go to celebrate the vortexes and descend and sell turquoise jewelry?
possibly. I know there's a lot of hippy dippy weirdness on top of extraterrestrial UFO weirdness on top of almost like a stronghold, I feel, of like substance abuse in that area. Like
Mm,
it's almost some kind of lingering effects, maybe possibly of, portals that might have been opened, maybe like a
right.
principality kind of running amok there. Who knows? Just surmising here, but
Oh, yeah. No, almost certainly. I mean, especially, of course, we've got our newer versions of things like psychedelics, but even peyote being like a sacrament to the natives in that area, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I'm kind of just scrolling through here, some Chaco Canyon stuff, just like you're saying. And yeah, these guys love spirals. There's spirals everywhere. And it looks like this particular group of people was very interested in sort of hiding in caves and holing up in the mountains and sort of almost building these, what, like fortress like uh, abodes. Oh, yeah, here's a cool little petroglyph of an alien. This guy's got like antennas. Yeah, that's trippy, man. Whoa.
very weird stuff. There's some petroglyphs of, people, alien creatures with like three pyramids stacked on their heads. It's very weird.
A classic, a classic. Yeah, well, shoot, maybe I'll have to put that on the old tour. I don't know. I have not heard from a lot of New Mexico Canarians, so it might have to be we connect with the Texans and take a little road trip or something. If there's any New Mexico Canarians out there, you got to let us know. Send us an email or a text or something. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This is sort of re-engaging me with one of our first loves here in the Canarium of like, these sort of ancient cultures or semi-ancient cultures and their seeming obsession with, I don't know, letting the future people know that there's aliens or demons or something running around. I can't think about it too long because I'll tend to kind of trip out a little bit about it and forget to do my chores.
It's a fun rabbit trail for sure.
Yeah,
Fun
goodness
is spooky.
gracious.
But yeah,
Well,
that's all I had.
thank you for so much for calling. It's great to talk to you for the first time, and I hope you get a chance to call in again.
Likewise, great talking with you, and I'm sure we'll chat again soon. Thanks,
All
Basil.
right, you betcha. Howdy to all the other Texas Canarians too.
Will do. Howdy doody. All
Okay, talk to you later.
right.
That's fun. Oh man, a lot of these hieroglyphs thing. What were those people doing? What was going on? What was going on? Why am I worried about tariffs? Why am I thinking about international trade when there's portals and aliens and a whole supernatural realm battling it out for my soul? Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing that I reconnect with news throughout the week. Because I could definitely see a potential where if I didn't have something grounded to distract myself or grounded to care about or to, I don't know, ponder about or try to analyze, it would just be all ancient aliens all the time. It would just be all what's going on in the spiritual realm, man. All right. So we must be coming close to the end of the timer here. And I do see we have Sir Darren, Knight of the Hungry Panda, who is here in the waiting room. He is the timekeeper. So we will end the call-in show and talking with him to see what's going on. Let's see what's up. Sir Darren, how you doing, buddy?
Hello, Basil.
Great to talk to you. Thanks for calling in.
Do you like my picture? Is it bringing nostalgia to you?
Yes, it's great. I'm assuming you're running some experiments. You've got a Ghibli version of the classic Sir Darren, Basil's girlfriend with a panda hood on.
Yep.
I love
don't
it.
know. It's good. It's kind of crazy. The call-in show kind of took some twists and turns. Pun intended. But yeah, so it brought to my mind a few things that I had experienced, and Psalm 40 brought up when you guys were talking about some of those words, and he was mentioning the occult love their spirals. So like years ago, we used to live in an area where back in like 2020, we lived in this area where we lived near a cult and we didn't even know it. And so back in 2020, during the whole lockdown and everything, everybody was inside and we're all bored. And so one day we're just like, let's just go for a drive. And so we drove around and we went up to like this area that had one of the city's municipal like drinking water reservoir.
Uh-huh.
And so the reservoir up there, we were driving around and we suddenly see this giant like field full on Burning Man size, like full of tents.
Oh.
And we're like, this is 2020. We're like, everybody's supposed to be locked down. Or maybe it was 2021. I can't remember for sure. But it's just like all these tents, and we're like, what is going on? And we see it's like this event and everything. And so then later I go home and I look it up online and all this stuff. And it's like this like new age hippie cult. And it's crazy. And so part of like this cult and everything is they've even got like the spiral. Like they've got a spiral out on their property.
Ooh.
And so I posted a picture of that I had gotten years ago. I posted it up on the X if anybody's interested.
Oh, I think okay. So that's what you posted. I thought I had saw you do something. It's kind of reminds me of one of those. What do they call it? Like a Zen labyrinth thing, where you kind of walk around in circles until you get to the middle, and then you keep following it, and it comes back out.
Yeah. So it was just interesting. But when Psalm 40 started talking about the portals and the whirlwinds and all these spirals, I'm like, hey, that's kind of like what I saw.
Dude, there's definitely something there. I mean, again, back to the sort of comparison between technology and creation. I mean, another aspect of that, I don't know, man seeking a way outside of the way that God has laid out. You have a technological attempt at that, but you also have sort of the occult attempt at that, the spiritual attempt to use spiritual mechanics for the will of man. And yeah, you look at some of these different, I don't know, traditions, religions, or cults, or whatever, you tend to see kind of the same themes. And in this sense, the spiral, and from what I know, I don't know exactly the purpose of the spiral that you saw, but I've definitely seen spiritual gurus and such lay out these sort of spiraling kind of labyrinths, and you're supposed to very slowly walk through the whole thing, and ponder or meditate. And then as you spiral into the center, you are coming closer to some sort of spiritual truth or breakthrough or something. And then you got to find your way out of it. This sort of occult spiritual technology is right along the same lines, the same intention, the same attempt to sort of transcend by our own power. And I don't think it's necessarily totally hogwash. I don't know if it's.
Well, it's interesting too because we also, like, years ago we had visited some of those the Canyon Dwellers place, and we did like a whole tour of that too.
Oh, the Chaco
And
Canyon, the one
yeah,
that
well, I don't know
Sarah
if it was
Phyllis
that exact place, but it was one of them.
something like it. Okay.
And it was basically the exact same thing where they live up in the cliffs and they have their ladders. And we got to tour inside of it. And man, they're teeny tiny. Like they're really small. And you
Yeah.
go in it. But one of the things they have in like their rooms was this little hole in the ground. And you're like, oh, is that the little fire pit or something? Like it's really tiny. It's like only like 4 inches around. And they're tell us, no, that's the portal. Like it's a portal to like other dimensions or something and all this.
Huh.
It's like, okay, that's
Whoa.
strange.
Crazy. Whoa.
The other thing too, just really fast so I can try to stay on time, is that years ago I would also so some of these places, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Colorado Springs, Colorado is sort of a major hub of like Christian ministries. Like there's a lot of like big Christian ministries that are like headquartered there, like for all kinds of things like book publishing and just all kinds of things. But what's interesting is Colorado Springs is also sort of known for its springs, you know, like the hot water springs and such.
Right.
And so if you even travel to all these little places, like Colorado has a lot of these hot springs. And hot springs, right, they come up out of the ground, out of a hole in the ground and everything. And some things that people like to do, they like to drink the water that comes out of there. It's really weird. But I remember when I was up there, I was talking to a friend when I was visiting them years ago, and they were telling me how in their sort of like little downtown of this one tinier town located up there, there was like a lot of witchcraft and like people who practice Satanism and stuff and everything. And so they were telling me all about this. And then like we even saw them on the street corner and the cops were like hassling them, like, you need to leave. You're annoying people and freaking them out. Like this was decades ago. But then like a few years after that too, I traveled to another little city with some hot springs. And I noticed we saw that on this church, like this little sort of like church that was kind of, they had like an RV sort of building thing. Somebody had spray painted on their church like graffiti, but it was like in this weird shape and it was almost like a spiral shape, but it kind of even looked like sort of a symbol or a glyph of something satanic, you know, or magical or whatever. And then as we were walking around town, I'm like just suddenly noticing, I'm like, hey, somebody's drawn these in chalk, like little tiny versions of that in chalk.
Weird.
In other places around the town. So it was just sort of a weird thing of like all these little like symbols everywhere and the idea of portals. And so it's like, I guess don't be drawing too many spirals on things, or who knows what you're doing.
Or something. Yeah, no, dude. I mean, that's the crazy part, is there is sort of an underground. It almost doesn't matter what you know, I don't know what theme you want to pick, but this reality that there's like underground, I don't know, spiritual warfare happening all the time that we can't even, I mean, forget about the invisible stuff, even just the human level, I I don't know, shadowy stuff going on where every square inch of the environment that you're around could be, every little brick, every little symbol, every little piece of graffiti or whatever, it could be something entirely different and incredibly meaningful to some unseen group of people who have some sort of agenda going on all around you. You see that a lot
Yeah.
in, I've seen that a lot like in the Midwest, in some of even these like smaller towns, and it just makes me think like, oh, geez, what is going on around here?
It is, yeah, it's so interesting. And I know that going through those places for me too, personally, I get like a weird physical feeling. Like I'll feel off, like completely off. And, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just traveling or jet lag or something. But even traveling through, I remember traveling through Native American reservation
Mm,
land one
mm-hmm.
time and getting the same sort of like weird, like, it's like, whoa, I passed through something different, physiological. And then when you get past it, even then suddenly it's like, oh, it's gone. Like, what is that?
Totally.
Very
Totally.
interesting.
Yeah, the geographic sort of principalities and powers is very real, man. And yeah, I mean, especially if someone is sort of spiritually sensitive or paying attention or has some experience with that kind of stuff, you can totally feel when you like cross over into the borders of someone else's territory, you know. And who knows exactly how that works? I mean, we know that there are principalities and powers who are given reign over certain geographical areas, all the way from, smaller things like lakes or valleys to, of course, countries or continents, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And while everything is God's, it is right there in black and white that this earth, this realm, has been, has been handed over, has been allowed to be a place where principalities and powers are vying, have some sort of power. And of course, because we are not citizens here, we are ambassadors of heaven. We have some diplomatic immunity in a sense. And that's always a good thing to remember when you start getting the heebie jeebies.
Oh yeah, that's what I do. Like, I think I called in a long time ago about it, but I said, even when I nowadays have like nightmares or even just thoughts where my brain starts to wander to like be afraid or anything,
Mm-hmm.
I've learned really well, at least for the being afraid and dreams part. And watch tonight, it'll be horrifying. But um, I've learned to like take those thoughts captive immediately, and that really like helps
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
just set me free. Um, but yeah, it was weird. Like when I visited that little town, because these like little pictographs or whatever of chalk, it was the same symbol, and they were like 2 inches big, and they were in places that were like almost like hidden. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how am I seeing these? Like, how am I like finding these little Easter egg symbols? Like, because we walked for like hours through this town, and they were just like almost, it was like you could tell somebody was, okay, we're now going to battle against the church that's here.
Right. It's like a
You know?
territorial sigil type of
Oh
thing.
yeah, it was like I've never seen it before, but
You know where I
it's very
experienced it
interesting.
quite a bit? It's very interesting too, especially in the Midwest and in small towns. I mean, some of those towns are just pure Mason run, like just purely a sort of
Mm-hmm.
Mason outpost. It's very interesting. But Nashville was an interesting place. I had a very similar experience in Nashville that you're talking about, where it seemed like every time I turned down an alley or I was just, looking at my eyes would, glance at a fire escape on a building or something, there would be these weird hidden little symbols, just so like I couldn't believe that I kept seeing them, because like you're saying, they're so tiny and they're sort of hidden. And it started, I was almost like, oh, should I like follow these? Is this some sort of like ARG somebody's laid out? And I kind of just, I mean, I wasn't making a big thing about it, but I was just wandering around, you know, exploring the city. And I went into this alleyway, and it was between two brick buildings. And halfway down the alleyway, there was a door. But now, the door was sort of like half underground. So there was this stairway that went down almost like to a basement or like a sub basement or something. And there's this door. And above this door, which had like a security gate on it and was locked, so I couldn't go in if I wanted to, which is probably for the best. Above this door, there was that symbol. Like these symbols had like, I don't know, I don't think I was like running around trying to play Sherlock Holmes or something, but I had noticed it a few times and, you know, being cognizant of that, and then just stumbling upon this like sketchy secret alleyway underground door that was clearly marked for whoever is supposed to be recognizing this symbol. I was like, oh boy, what an interesting place this is.
Yep.
Watch out,
Strange
folks.
times.
It happens. It happens. Countless stories of people following these sorts of signs, sigils, and synchronicities. Always be careful doing that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for calling in, buddy, and thank you for helping me keep time. God bless you.
You're welcome. And I think you're right at the 1 hour, 33-minute mark now.
Look at us go. Thank you so much, buddy. Make sure to call in again.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. We did it, folks. We did it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks to everybody who called in. That's excellent. Excellent. Highly encourage people to consider doing that. And, you know, I don't know about the email thing. I can't tell. I'll have to wait and look at the details after whether or not the email left anybody out or excluded anybody from catching the live show. But you know what'll make sure you don't get excluded is if you text Canary to 877-740-3226. It's easy, it's peasy, and I don't know, lemon squeezy. You can get a reminder, get a little notification when we go live, whenever we go live. Just a little hello. Don't worry. You can ignore it if you want, but just know it's not some sort of AI scammer trying to get your bank information or to send me gift cards or something. Just text Canary, just the word, no punctuation, to 877-740-3226. And text me back. Text me back, say hi. That's the fun thing to do. That's what the cool kids are doing. You need to just reach out, make sure that you exist. You can do that, and I'll probably read your thing on the show one of these days. Isn't that fun? 509 texted and said, suggestions for interviewing other podcasters. William Lane Craig of Reasonable Faith Podcast, Julian Charles of the Mind Renewed Podcast, Chris White of Bible Prophecy Talk, and the Revelation Radio News Podcast, guys. Yeah, those are all very good suggestions. We've had a few of those guys on the show before, and look, we can have them on again. This is something we're realizing is just because we had somebody on the podcast 10 years ago doesn't mean we can't have them on again. We really should be reaching out to our old pals from back in the day. Thank you, 509. That's a great use of the text message alert system. Folks, send us suggestions for who we should have on the podcast. We really need to figure that out. We have got to get these interviews more consistent. It's just must be done. So there you go. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. And if you can, try to come back for the live shows. It's always a blast. It's always a blast getting to know you, letting the Canarium get to know you. Personally, this show is an excellent way for me to get some perspective, B, actually have some back and forth. I mean, this is a generational, nope, that's not the word, generative. This is a generative experience. I am given so much more insight, so much opportunity to explore different topics, and so much more perspective from people all around the country, nay, the world. Salt Paul in the chat says, off to my doom scrolling. No, be gone with you, doom scrolling. Sir Darren says, we should code name the 33 to Basil's Buffer. Basil's Buffer, that's another, I'm gonna have to remember that. All right, folks, you know this. We're on the value for value model, which means we don't take any money from corporations, commies, or cartels. This is a very special project in that we are not only do we not take sponsors, and let me tell you, we still get offers all the time. I don't want to give any lip service to some of the offers we've been given recently, but let's just say we've been given a couple offers recently to organizations who certainly have the money to make that happen. But spiritually, we're just not comfortable with that, which I could see somebody being like, okay, sure. I mean, I'm pretty convinced the way that we have seen the world unfold, the way that we have seen the timing between this show's existence, the threats, the monetary threats that have crashed down around the entire podcasting space, the infiltrations of different incentives and different organizations worm their way into the alternative media. I am absolutely convinced that this show, this community, would not be where it is if we had not been so committed to the value for value model. There are so many pitfalls and so many traps. You know, that devil's tricky. You know, you might think you're getting a good opportunity, but in fact, it's a trap. It's a trap. Much like China and the tariffs. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Sorry, I brought up the tariffs at the end of there. You don't need to think about it. Don't worry about the tariffs. Everything's going to work out fine, folks. Everything's going to happen just the way it's supposed to be by the sovereignty of God. A good thing to remember, that nothing will happen outside of the permission of the creator of the universe, whom we love and whom loves us more than we could possibly imagine. But it's a good time to stick together, support each other in all the ways that we can. You can support this show, this community, with your time, your talent, or your treasure. You know the deal. Whatever value you get out of the show, pray about it, think about it. You can put that value back in all sorts of ways. You can go to canarycried.support to learn all about it. And I highly recommend you do. Dare I even say, I pray that the Lord blesses anyone who steps out in faith to participate in what God is doing with no promise of return, with no physical, financial promise of return. The Lord has an amazing way of taking care of his people, especially those who participate in what he's got going on earth, which we believe is what's going on here. And if you think so too, why don't you become a part of the show? Produce the show in one way or another. Time, talent, or treasure. Other than that, I think that's about it. I think that's about it for the day. Look at that. I'm actually going to have a day after this. I have so many things to get done. So many things to get done. It is so hard to get anything done today at all. I almost feel like spiritually I'm trying to live in a van down by the river. So many responsibilities. It's hard to do your chores. It's hard to get things done when the impression we are being given at every turn is that there might not be a society for much longer. How much do these things really matter? I don't know, but Lord, give me strength. I pray he gives you strength as well, and wisdom to know the difference between what needs to get done and what is just being done because we're told it needs to be done, or because we've always done it that way, Look for things to cut out, folks. That's your homework. I feel like I've given this homework before. I don't remember, but that's your homework for today's Canary Cry Clubhouse. Look at your life. Look at things you don't even notice. This is the tough part. Oftentimes, the things that we could let go of, the things that we could cut, the things that we are holding ourselves responsible for that we don't really need to, are so habitual and are so baked in, and we've been doing it for so long, that it's hard to even see them. It's hard to even perceive that we are focusing on these things. I don't know, whether it's some sort of responsibility or some sort of hobby or pastime, or, I mean, hobbies and pastimes are good. That's good for the soul, but you know what I mean. I don't know. Habits. You could call them habits. It's hard to even perceive them, much less actually process whether they should be, that they even matter or not. So that's my prayer for me this weekend. So Lord, show me the things in my life that I am doing without thinking. Maybe I'm putting lots of pressure on myself to get them done. Maybe I'm using them as a distraction from the stuff that really matters, that are really important. It's almost like there's some sort of whirlwind, folks, that we get caught going around and around and around and sort of spiraling down, when in fact, there's all sorts of other stuff that if we weren't trapped in this pattern of circling around over and over and over, descending, or maybe ascending, I don't know. But to just take a second, try to step outside that automatic, well-worn path that perhaps is not helping us as much as we think so. I don't know. Just something to think about. That's what I'm going to do. I think you should give it a try too. Sometimes it's just good to be given an opportunity to think about these things. So I hope that's valuable to you. Okay. What do we do here? I'm going to go like this. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go like this. That's about it for today's Canary Cry Clubhouse. Are there any announcements? Any announcements for the Canarium? Not that I can think of. I cannot think of things except for maybe sign up for the supply drop, canarycrysupply.com. Or something. Just something like that. Saltapal says, he's going deep. Run! Yeah. I mean, speaking of getting caught in a repetitive cycle of descending spirals, that's basically this whole end of the show. Take this as a sign. Has it been profitable? Is this a profitable end of the show? Is this sort of meandering? Is this helping anything? Does this have some sort of return on investment? I don't know. I'm going to take the weekend and think about it, okay? I'll think about that. You go think about something else on your side and let me know. This is what I want you to do. Text me right now, whenever you're hearing this. Text me what it is that you see in your life that you're just kind of doing habitually under the impression that it's helping you. But when you actually sit and think about it, you're having a hard time actually quantifying or identifying the benefit that it's actually bringing you or anyone. I need you to text me what you find, because I sure am trying to find it. And maybe you can give me a little bit of insight, okay? So text the word canary to 877, just do it right now, 877-740-3226. I don't know if you can just text that number. I expect you do need to join the list first to be able to send that text. So text Canary to 877-740-3226 and let me know. Tell me what it is you have come up with. And if you want, you tell me what you have come up with for me. Tell me what I'm doing that is profiting me nothing. Okay? Just as a request from your best buddy Basil. Help me out here. Okay? All right. That's it. Thanks everybody for tuning in to this episode of Canary Crag Clubhouse. We'll be back next week. Make sure to tune in. But until then, how have I been ending this show? Think outside the cage? Think outside the clubhouse? The cage outside the... Think outside the cage. Bye!
We got a caller. We got a caller on the line here.